In this video, I'm going to be reacting to the rules of rugby. Alright everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Blake. I am an American football fan and I am reacting to some rugby today. I have been watching a couple of different videos and I've just been kind of looking at it from a very general sense, I guess, where I don't know the rules of the game, but I like to see the athleticism and the plays being made. But I finally am going to get into what the game consists of, and I think I was given a suggestion in one of the comments. I don't know how to pronounce the name of this channel, but I was given a suggestion to look up this guy. He does different videos on different rules for different sports, and I saw this one, the difference between rugby union and rugby league. So I figured I might as well watch this one so that it gives me kind of the best of both worlds between the two biggest versions of rugby. And yeah, if you guys have any suggestions of any other videos you want me to see, please leave those down in the comments. I'm going to be asking a bunch of questions throughout the video, so all I ask too is if you have answers to those questions, I'd love to hear from you in the comments as well. I respond to every single comment, as long as the videos don't blow up too big and I have a comment every second, I will get to your comments. So yep, let's hop right into it.
Nin explains the differences between rugby union and rugby league and a whole lot more. But first, a history lesson. Back in 1823, at a local football match in the town of Rugby, an English schoolboy named William Webb Ellis supposedly picked up the ball and ran with it. Pretty soon this became a popular game, and in 1871 led to the creation of the governing body known as the RFU, the Rugby Football Union, of which still exists today. That's nice and all, but why are there two different kinds? Back then, there were two different kinds of players. Firstly, there were the amateurs. These were public schoolboys or people rich enough to play the game for free and who didn't need to be paid. Secondly, there were the professionals. These are the people who were so poor that they needed to be paid to play a child's game because they couldn't afford time off work. Nowadays, being a professional sportsman...
That's interesting. That's actually almost the opposite of what I would have thought. That the amateurs are the poor people that just kind of play the game for the love of the game, you know? And they would be the poorer people, and then the richer people, they're like, if I'm going to play this game, you have to pay me, you know? Doesn't that make sense? But I mean, that's very interesting that it was kind of the opposite. But yeah, okay.
It's a good job, but back then it was seen as worse than prostitution. Professionals were usually from the north of England, usually from Lancashire and Yorkshire. Pretty soon though, they realised that being paid money to play a game wasn't such a bad idea and started forming fully professional teams. The RFU, not happy that these northern professionals were beating the southern amateurs at their own game and being paid quite well for it, decided to ban professionals, ban professional sports teams, and anyone playing professionals or professional sports teams. The professionals, not liking this, set up their own league in 1895 and called themselves the Northern Rugby Football Union, later to be named Rugby League, whilst the...
Oh my gosh, this is... Okay, that's a little confusing, so they used to be the Northern Rugby Football Union, but they're not Rugby Union, they're Rugby League now. But that's interesting. So the guys that were playing it for free were getting their butts kicked, and then they made it where the professionals couldn't play against the amateurs anymore, which kind of makes sense. But because I guess if it's your full-time job to play, then you're probably going to be a lot better than guys that are just doing it for fun. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like college sports versus professional sports here. College sports are technically amateur. You don't get paid to play. You get scholarships and things like that. So there's some sort of monetary value in it. You get an education. Now the NCAA actually is making up, or they're laxing the rules where you can have sorts of sponsorships and stuff like that. The only example that I really know is the quarterback of ECU, who obviously is one of is my favorite college football team. I know that he does some showings on the radio for different things. He has his own clothing brand, and one of the big bars is it's called Sup Dogs. It was ranked the last 2 years. It was actually ranked as the number one sports bar in America, or college sports bar in America. He's sponsored by them, and so after every home game, he goes there and meets with people and stuff. But anyway, so that's a complete other thing. But I see this kind of as that separation between college, amateur, and professional. Professional, obviously.
The RFU named their sport Rugby Union. These two sports have been separate ever since 1895, and to this day you'll find most of the professional rugby league teams in the north of England and most of the professional rugby union teams located in the south. Okay, so what is the difference? In general, both kinds of rugby have the same idea. You have to run with the ball and touch it down onto your opponent's in-goal area to score. You can pass the ball sideways or backwards, but not forwards. The opponents have to stop you by grabbing the ball carrier and pulling him to the floor. The main difference between the two sports is what happens after the tackle. In rugby union, the tackle is contested. This means that as soon as a tackle has been made, the ball carrier must let go of the ball. This also means, in theory, that either player on either team can pick it up and run with it. This is known as the ruck, and it looks like a giant mess of bodies pushing each other and lying around on the floor a bit, and it is, sort of. In rugby league, however, the tackle is uncontested. After the ball carrier is tackled, the opponent must let go of him, and his team must retreat 10 meters. They must...
Okay. That's interesting. So that's the major difference, is that the tackle's contested or uncontested. So league, it's uncontested, but union, it is contested. And I think I got a comment explaining that rugby union is the like international rule set. Like, so that I reacted to a video of USA versus New Zealand, and I think it was rugby union rules, if I'm not mistaken.
Ball carrier to kick the ball back to a teammate, and then they try and run forwards with the ball again. The team with the ball is allowed up to 6 tackles to score before the referee gives the ball to the other team so that they can have their 6 tackles. This might seem like a minor rule change, but this has resulted in 2 almost completely different sports. Other differences include 15 men play in a rugby union team as opposed to 13 men in a rugby league team.
So
5 points for a trying union,
for league, it's like you have a certain amount of
3
downs.
points for a penalty kicking union, 2 points in league, 3 points for a drop goal in union, but only 1 point in league. There are many other rules that differ between the two codes of rugby, but those are the main ones you need to know about. American football fans who watch rugby league for the first time generally understand it very quickly, as these two sports are very similar. The same cannot be said about rugby union, which will forever confuse our American friends for years to come. So why did rugby league change the rules? If you remember the professionals of 1895, they needed to be paid. To make more money from spectators, they had to change the rules of the game to make it more exciting for spectators to watch. This includes reducing the scoring, reducing the number of men, and including an even amount of possession by limiting the tackles per team. This is why some people say that rugby league is more exciting to watch. Union fans would argue that they dumbed down the rules because their tiny little northern monkey brains couldn't understand rugby union, but this is certainly not the case. Union fans refer to rugby league players as idiots, whereas league fans think of union players as fat public schoolboys who can't take a hit. So what's more popular?
So is that like a legitimate rivalry, like between different leagues? Like, that's kind of interesting. So instead of it being two different sports where they like hate each other, like lacrosse and baseball guys hate each other, it's union and league guys hate each other. That's funny.
Rugby union is the more popular sport as it's been around for longer. It's also the de facto code of rugby that you'll probably learn in school. Only a handful of countries play rugby league, and in fact, the only country where rugby league is more popular than rugby union is Australia. But in reality, when most people say rugby, they're usually referring to rugby union. So which is better? To answer that question, let's use an analogy of chess and checkers. Checkers, like rugby league, is a very simple game to understand. Every piece is the same, and they all have an equal role. It's a fast game, and you really don't need to be a genius to understand what's going on. Chess, like rugby union, is an infinitely more complicated game to understand. Some pieces are different than others and perform different roles. It's a much slower game, and it's all about strategy and tactics. You have to be more tactically aware to play rugby union, but you have to be fitter to play rugby league, as your job mainly consists of running with a ball and being smashed in the face for 80 minutes. So the question is, which do you prefer? Chess or checkers? Rugby league or rugby union? The only way you'll truly know is to watch or play both kinds of games and deciding for yourself.
Okay, well that was very helpful. So there's just only a couple of different things that really make the difference. And it's really cool that he gave that history lesson too, that it goes all the way back to the 1800s. But yeah, I do see what he means by rugby league being a little bit easier for like Americans to understand because it is a lot like football. You have a certain set amount of tackles until the ball gets turned over. It's just like the amount of downs that you get. So I do understand that a lot more than I understand the ruck because with the ruck and union, I get the whole idea of it, but there's a lot more detail that I'm sure that I don't get. And some of that being, I said that in the first video, I think, or one of my first videos, where the guy that had got tackled let go of the ball, it goes to the back of the ruck, and a guy on the opposing team just kind of like sat there and let it roll to the back and didn't go after it. And turns out there's an offsides penalty if you do that. And so there's a lot of nuanced things that I'm sure make Union such a more complex game, and that's maybe why there's those stereotypes between the two. But it's very interesting. I'm really glad that I watched this, and I mean within 5 minutes, I now obviously I don't know the entire game, but that gave me a really good idea, and I'll probably go back and watch it again to make sure that I caught everything. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, please hit the like button and subscribe. Turn the notification bell on, and you'll be notified anytime I post a video. I try to post the videos kind of in the middle of the night in the U.S. because I have a feeling that most of the people watching these videos are probably Aussies and Kiwis, and it's a really big time difference. And so I'm trying to get a respectable time for you guys down under, I guess. So I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.